Yeah, this is great. I'll just wait for Shabbat Shalom, everyone. I'm just going to wait a second for people to connect to the audio here. It's lovely to see you all. All right, we are going to begin with Minha on page 214 in the Lev Shalem. I'm sorry that I don't know what page it is in the Siddur Sim Shalom. Joe, do you know?
Slim Shalom, it's
Jackie, I have your papers here.
I know that the Slim Shalom, it's 226.
226.
And I think in the full volume Sim Shalom is like 558 or
Yeah, you're right. From camp, I remember that. And the full volume Sim Shalom is 558. Bob is going to be leading us in Mincha. There is a good chance that we are going to be doing the Torah service without a minyan, in which case I'll just read from a Chumash, so I will keep you all posted. But for right now, it's lovely to see 16 people on the screen and those of us who are in person. So we will begin. Those of you who have El Males, though, I'll make sure to still do an El Male, so don't worry about that. Okay, sorry. One more time. Let me tell you the page numbers. 214, 558, 226, we think? Okay.
Ashrei shevetecha od yalucha sela sheshachach tila leDavid Tiladna yada bepiva reka basam shekachalelam va'eva nachnu nevarech yam yatav yadalam hallelujah uva l'tzion v'ohel shviv. V'yatakadosh yoshev tilad Yisrael v'kara ze el ze v'yamar Shkadosh kadosh Adonai tzavav malach ha'aretz kevodo. V'taseni ruach v'shmach ha'korash kadosh baruch kavod Adonai mimkomo. Adonai yimlach le'olam pa'ed. ויבטחו בך ידי שמך, כי לא עזבת דורשך אדוני, אדוני חפץ למען צדקו, יגדיל תורה ויאדיר.
No one here was supposed to be reading Torah, right? Awesome, yeah. Okay. Well, hello. This is me again. We do not yet have a minyan on the field. So I am going to read out of the Chumash, Parshat Yitro. If you are looking in the Eitz Chaim Chumash, it is on page 432. If you are just reading in another Chumash or Tanakh, it is chapter 18 of Shmot, of Exodus. Verses 1 through 4 will be the first aliyah. I'm just going to turn around so that my back is not to those who are on the field. Baruch ata Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah. Vayishma Yitro Kohen Midian Choten Moshe et kol asher asa Elohim Moshe u'Yisrael amo ki hotzi Adonai et Yisrael miMitzrayim vayikach Yitro Choten Moshe tzipora eshet Moshe achar shilucheha ואת שני בניה אשר שם האחד גרשום כי אמר גר הייתי בארץ נוכריה ושם האחד אליעזר כי אלוהי אבי בעזרי ויצילני מחרב פרעה. One second, I'm just gonna try to see this a little bit better. ויבוא יתרו חותן משה ובניו ואשתו אל משה אל המדבר אשר הוא חונה שם הר אלוהים ויאמר אל משה אני חותנך יתרו בא אליך ואשתך ושני בניה עמה ויצא משה לקראת חותנו וישתחו וישקלו וישאלו איש לרעהו לשלום ויבואו האוהלה ויספר משה לחותנו את כל אשר עשה אדוני לפרעה למצרים על אודות ישראל את כל התלאה אשר מצאת בדרך ויצילם אדוני. Last aliyah will be verses 9 through 12. ויחד יתרו על כל הטובה אשר עשה אדוני לישראל אשר הצילו מיד מצרים ויאמר יתרו ברוך אדוני אשר הציל אתכם מיד מצרים ומיד פרעה אשר הציל את העם מתחת יד מצרים עתה ידעתי כי גדול אדוני מכל האלוהים כי בדבר אשר זדו עליהם ויקח יתרו חותן משה עולה וזבחים לאלוהים ויבוא אהרון וכל זקני ישראל לאכול לחם עם חותן משה לפני האלוהים. All right, Parshas Yitro. I just want to say one really quick thing. Jackie is the one who's going to be teaching us today, but I have the microphone, so I wanted to say something. One of the really foundational pieces, I think, of our Torah actually comes in this week's Parsha of Yitro. We start off by hearing, just in the name of the Parsha, of a man who, number one, was not Jewish, and number two, really had no business telling Moshe what to do, other than the fact that he was Moshe's father-in-law. But there is something really powerful about receiving the 10 Commandments in a Parsha that is named for a person who's not even of our faith. And one of the things that I think this reminds us of, and in allowing me to even do services with all of you here, it means that someone who is not of our faith is helping us in that mission. And I just think it's such a powerful reminder for all of us that yes, we have the 10 Commandments, and yes, we have these rules that are important to us as a people. And we were only able to get there because we worked with others in our midst. We didn't just work insular to our own religion, to our own people, but rather we were able to, or Moshe was able to take the advice, take the guidance, with a little bit of eye rolling from his father-in-law, who again was not of our faith, not of our tradition, and yet he knew leadership really well. So I just wanted to point that out because this whole week we're going to be in this Parsha, and I think it's a good reminder of us to recognize those who are around us, not just the Jews in our midst and not just those who are like-minded or the same religion or same race or same culture, but rather all those who are around us who make for our lives to be multidimensional and and allow us to learn different lessons that move us forward. Hector, if there's a way to make this on gallery view, then I can see who's here in terms of doing an El Male. Is there anybody in person who would like an El Male? Okay, so, oh, sorry. And also, I don't know what that thing is. Great. So I know Jonathan and Lillian, you both have yard sites today. Is there anybody else on Zoom? Tybal, okay. All right. And Stephen, you also have one? Have an El Male? Okay. So Larry, you also have one? All right. Okay. So let me think about how to do this. Okay. I'm going to, okay, everybody who has an El Male, let's do it this way, actually. Everyone who has an El Male, why don't you, if you're able to unmute, why don't you do that? You can't unmute. They
We
can't
can?
unmute.
Yeah,
We
muted.
can.
Great.
We can.
Okay, fantastic. I'm going to
Mine is
do,
tonight only. Only tonight at Marev. My yard site starts tonight.
okay, great.
Okay.
Would you like an El Male?
Sure.
Okay, great. So I'm going to take out the Torah. Those of you who are in person, if you don't mind standing for these, I will, what? Oh, no, it's okay. Yeah. Well, let's just, okay. All right, Tybal, why don't you go first since I see your hand?
She's a daily millionaire now. I don't. She'll do it for me.
Tybal, who's this El Male for?
My father, who was Shlomo Yehoshua ben Chaya Fega La'asher Zelig.
So when I pause, I'm going to have you say his name again, and then I'll continue with the El Male. Does that sound good?
Yes.
Okay. El Male Rachamim, Shochein Bamramim, Hametzeh Menucha Nechona, Tachat Kanfei HaShechina, B'ma'alot Kedushim U'Tohorim, Kezohar Ki Amasirim, Et Nishmat.
Shlomo Yehoshua ben Chaya Fega La'asher Zelig.
שהלך לעולמו בגן עדן תהא מנוחתו, ענה בעל הרחמים, הסתירהו בסתר כנפיך לעולמים, וצרור בצרור החיים את נשמתו, אדוני הוא נחלתו, וינוח בשלום המשכבו, ונאמר אמן. Jonathan, would you like to go next for your mother?
Her Hebrew name is Ita Bat Malka Vamarku.
Ita bat Malka v'Marco.
Marku.
Okay, why don't you say the name just like what Tybal did? When I get to the pause, why don't you say her name aloud? Okay.
Okay.
Okay. El Male Rachamim, Shochein Bamromim, Hametzeh Menucha Nechona, Tachat Kanfei HaShechina, B'ma'alot Kedushim U'Tohorim, Kezohar Ki Amasirim, Et Nishmat.
Ita Bat Marku Vamalka.
שהלכה לעולמה, בגן עדן תהא מנוחתה, ענה בעל הרחמים, הסתיריה בסתר כנפיך לעולמים, וצרור בצרור החיים את נשמתה, אדוני הוא נחלתה, ותנוח בשלום המשכבה, ונאמר אמן. I'll have those who are reciting El Males have an opportunity while people are eating here to share a little bit. I just wanted to say to Jonathan that I know this is the first yard site for your mother, and what a crazy world we've lived in for the past year in remembering her and being witness to you holding her close to you in all the moments that you've been able to say Kaddish in person or on Zoom, in community, separated from community, but the thing that stayed true was that you held her close this whole year. And so I hope that even though you will now have breaks from saying Kaddish in a regular sort of pattern, that you find ways to keep her close throughout many, many years to come in your life, and that her memory is forever a blessing. Lillian, would you like to go next?
And my sister Debbie is also doing it with us.
Oh, beautiful. Okay. Would one of you like to say her name when I pause?
Yeah, it's for my father.
Oh, sorry. Sorry, I was thinking Debbie, and yes, correct. One of you, just whoever feels comfortable unmuting, if you would like to recite his name when I pause. El male rachamim, shochen bamromim, hametze menucha nechona, tachat kanfei hashchina, b'ma'alot kedushim u'tohorim, kezoah harakia mazhirim, et nishmat.
Ephraim,
Do you know his parents' Hebrew names?
Ben Israel, and go ahead,
And
Lil.
Israel's great. Shelach le'olamo began Eden tehem menuchato ana ba'al rachamim hasirehu beset knafecha le'olamim utzro b'tzor chayim et nishmato Adonai hu nachalato ve'anuach b'shalom amishkavo v'nomar amen. Thank you, Debbie and Lillian. Steve, would you like to go next? Just unmute first so I can hear you.
Hi, it's my brother in Iran. He passed 3-4 months ago from coronavirus, and per Sephardic custom, I say 11 months in the first 11 months.
Okay.
To say for him, because he had no children or no wife.
I'm so sorry.
I want to say no.
So I'll say the first passage and you'll say his name when I pause, and then we'll continue.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. El male rachamim shochen bamromim hametze menucha nechona tachat kanfei hashchina b'ma'alot kedoshim u'tohorim kezohar rakia mazhirim et nishmat
Dan ben Ezra.
שהלך לעולמו בגן עדן תהא מנוחתו, ענה בעל הרחמים, הסתירהו בסתר כנפיך לעולמים, וצרור בצרור החיים את נשמתו, אדוני הוא נחלתו, ואנוח בשלום המשכבו, ונאמר אמן. Steve, would you like to go now?
Thank you.
Yes, sure. Who's this for?
This is from my mother, perished the last day of the war, January 1945, Stutthof concentration camp in Poland.
Wow. I'll have you do the same thing I've done with the others. I'll pause, you'll say her name, and I'll continue. El male rachamim shochen bamromim hametze menucha nechona tachat kanfei hashchina b'ma'alot kedoshim u'tohorim kezohar rakia mazhirim et nishmat
Beyo Bashraget Tzvi.
שהלכה לעולמה בגן עדן תהא מנוחתה, ענה בעל הרחמים, הסתיריה בסתר כנפיך לעולמים, וצרור בצרור החיים את נשמתה, אדוני הוא נחלתה, ותנוח בשלום המשכבה, ונאמר אמן. Larry, did you say that you also had?
Yes, thank you.
Sure, of course. Who's it for?
It's for my father.
Your father, okay. El male rachamim shochen bamromim hametze menucha nechona tachat kanfei hashchina b'ma'alot kedoshim u'tohorim kezohar harakia mazhirim et nishmat
Moshe ben Natan V. Bluma.
שהלך לעולמו בגן עדן תמנוחתו, ענה בעל רחמים, הסירהו בסתר כנפיך לעולמים, וצרו בצרור החיים את נשמתו, אדוני הוא נחלתו, וינוח בשלום המשכבו, ונאמר אמן. Yehi Zichram Baruch. It is never a small thing to do so many El Males, and I hope that for each of you who are able to think of your loved one, that you found comfort and feel the support of community and being able to share a little bit of their life. Again, after we do Mincha and people here are sitting and eating, I'll offer the space for anybody who would like to share a memory or some words about your loved ones to please do so. But we'll continue now with Mincha and then have you do that during the break before Jackie teaches. Any others? Okay.
Yeah. I was late for a meeting.
Sorry about that.
When I was davening, I couldn't leave. It's probably another system somewhere. So we're just gonna go straight to.
So again, because there's not a minion present on the field, we're going to do the whispered Amidah, which can be found on page 223 or following the Torah service in your Siddur. We're going to continue with Aleinu. If you've not yet finished Amidah, please continue at your own pace, page 231.
Alenu l'shabeach ladon hakol, atekedu laliot severeshit, shlasana k'gei haratzah, v'lo samana k'mishpachot hadama, shlo sam chalkinu kahem, v'goralenu k'chol hamonam, v'anachnu korim, v'taglim u'modim, l'fim melech mochem. Gakativ Torah Ad Noim Lach Le'Elam Va'evan Emar V'Haya Adonai L'Melech Al Kol Ha'aretz Bayom Hahu Adonai Echad U'Shmo Echad Yitkadav Yitkadash Shemei Rabbah V'Amad Divrak Yerutei V'Amlich Malchutei V'Chayechon V'Yamechon V'Chayei Dechol Beit Yisrael V'Agala V'Zman Kariv V'Yimru Amen. Yehi Shmei Rabba Mevarach Le'Olam Omei Amaya. Yit Barach V'Yishtabach V'Yit Pa'ar V'Yit Ramam V'Yit Naseh V'Yit Hadar V'Yit Alev V'Yit Halal Shmei D'Kedusha Brichu. Le'Elah Min Kol Birchata V'Shirata Tushbechata V'Nechemata Da'amiran B'Alma V'Yimru Amen. Yehi Shlama Rabba Min Shemaya V'Chaim Aleinu V'Al Kol Yisrael V'Yimru Amen. Oseh Shalom Bimramav Hu Ya'aseh Shalom Aleinu V'Al Kol Yisrael V'Yimru Amen.
Yasher koach to Bob. I'm going to have those who are in person grab a little nosh. You also can grab a little nosh. I can't offer it to you though from our field, but definitely feel free to grab some nosh in your own homes. If those of you who recited an El Male today for a loved one would like to share a few words, just raise your hand. I already see one hand, so why don't we start there, and then we can we'll go to Debbie next, and then Tybal. Oh, you just have to unmute. Unmute first. Okay, Jonathan, you want to go first? No, you don't. Okay, Tybal, would you like to go first?
Yes,
Okay.
sure. And I'll start out by thanking you because it's not always possible, Amara, for us to unmute and for you to do all that with your beautiful voice on a day, at least for me, when it's particularly hard to be a shul-going Jew. This really was comfort. So I'll just say, my father, it will be his 14th yortzeit. He died literally as Parsha Yitro went out. That Shabbos, which I always thought was fitting. He was the youngest of 10. He was the only American born. His father was a cantor after he came to America, was a cantor in an Orthodox shul in Pittsfield, Massachusetts. And my father was the only one that inherited the voice. And he then was a cantor, always a volunteer cantor for our tiny shul. That's him on the bima. And while he was not a cantor for ever as a paid cantor, in many ways, it was the love of his life, which is why when I hear clergy with voices as beautiful as yours, it's my connection to shul going as my father. And it is just so meaningful.
Yehi Zichro Baruch, and thank you for the sweet words. Lillian?
Maybe I'll have my sister go first.
No,
Sure.
They can't
Debbie.
hear you. How could
How about you going first, Lil? You always do.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
So my daddy, Fred Gelberg, or Ephraim, grew up as a street urchin in Lodge and was the oldest of many children. And his parents said, you need to leave when he was 16. And he crossed from Poland into Siberia and survived the war crossed the border into Russia and survived in Siberia. And he's amazing. He really believed that God saved him and directed him and guided him. And he came to America, and he's always said that if he had stayed in Poland, no way would he have had two children, two daughters who were educated and went to graduate school, and he would have never owned a home. He was a lover, a giver, a dancer, a singer, and a barber who took care of everybody, and was very active in the Jewish community, and a real role model for me of a positive spirit and optimism and joie de vivre. Yeah, I miss him a lot. And he loved my children. He and my mom babysat for 11 years every Saturday night.
Wow.
And brought more goodies to the house than we could possibly have ever finished. I think we're still finishing some of the things 20 years later of what he stocked up in our house.
Well, he sounds like an amazing man and the perfect grandparent.
Yeah. Is it okay if my sister shares a little?
Yes, of course.
Okay.
Thank you. Well, ditto to everything Lillian said. And one of the things also that strikes me about my father, besides his courage and his strength, he just had this very strong spirit, and was also his ability to, well, how that came to be, I think, is he would always say, like, don't let anything negative come into your brain. And I didn't really understand what that meant until recently, when I've been really working on becoming more positive. And I think, he would just say, chase those negative thoughts out, and I think that that's really a lot of what I can share with you is, how he was so strong and what he did. And a lot of it had to do with his thinking, and he just would not allow himself to get negative. And so he created a very positive reality, just because he wouldn't agree with the negative, he wouldn't agree to let it stay in. And that's how he fought in the underground Polish army and came to the United States. He just had that vision, and he wouldn't let it go, and become negative. So I think that was, when I reflect now about, to me, like, he hasn't passed away because I'm remembering the things that he gave me, the teachings, so that was one of the things. And then what he also conveyed was that, if you have a mission, don't try to do it on your own, because it's not going to work. So I remember when I was a kid and the Jews were trying to get out of Russia then. So it was free Soviet Jewry. So he would take me to Soviet Jewry rallies. I was like 9 years old, and he didn't care if I was scared. He just said, "Hey, you're coming." I said, "Okay, I guess I got to go." And, it was not so easy for a 9-year-old, but it's been a lot easier for me to stand up for myself and stand up and, join organizations. And I joined Amnesty International afterward, when I was in college as a result. So I just have to say that, so I just wanted to share that with you, and thank you everybody for being here and for the beautiful services, Rabbi. And I'm just praying also that the situation in Texas resolves itself, so that the hostages, the rabbi and the other people are freed up. And I'm just praying to God that God takes care of the whole situation. There's peace there. And
Amen.
Yeah.
Jonathan?
Sure. Sharon, you want to unmute it? Oh, first of all, thank you, Rabbi Schatz, for your kind words. My mother, Edith, was born in the Bronx, and she was one of three, the middle one of three children. She had a younger brother and an older sister, and her parents came from Romania, and her father was a tailor, so she was a tailor's daughter, and she was planning to be a English teacher till she met my father, who convinced her to go to law school. And she was one of the few women in her time that went to law school, so that gave her a lot of independence and strength. And she was a very strong-willed mother who raised 4 tough sons, sometimes to be too tough, I think. And I'm just very grateful for the community and my family, who's been very supportive this past year, which has been a very difficult one. And of course, our new dog Fergus has been a tremendous support.
Well, it sounds like both of your parents showed just tremendous strength, and I think that it's always so interesting to hear children speak of their parents' strength, because I think if you were to ask parents while they are parenting, they probably wouldn't recognize themselves as strong. And the fact that both parents that we just heard of have been mentioned as strong people in their lives is really a beautiful blessing to have grown up with and to be able to share about them. Anybody else want to share who had an El Male today? Yeah, Larry.
Thank you. I'm going to echo everybody's sentiments, Rabbi Schatz. This is so much appreciated. And even though it would be great if we were all together, this is as close as we can get. And I do feel a sense of community, and thank you and everybody else who is on Zoom today. Like Jonathan, my father was born in the Bronx also.
Maybe they knew each other.
Possibly a small Jewish world.
The Bronx, that really small place.
Yeah, that small place. My father grew up relatively poor, and it was not an easy life for him. He was the first and only of his siblings. Even though he was the oldest, he was the only one that went to college. He got a scholarship to Indiana University.
That's where I went.
Oh, and so did I.
Go Hoosiers.
And yes, and like all of your other parents, he had to overcome a lot of obstacles and always remained optimistic, which even when I gave up on myself, he never gave up on me, which was a quality that I feel very grateful for and very blessed. And he was brought up in an Orthodox Jewish home, but fortunately or unfortunately, for me, it was unfortunate. He separated from his religious Judaism and was secular, but he always supported my quest for ritual and Jewish life, and he respected that, and for that I am also grateful. So, like all of you, I really miss him on his fourth Yortzad, and thank you for an opportunity to share. And it's been a pleasure listening to everyone else as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Larry. Steve, and I'm just going to, while you're speaking, just move things around so Jackie can start teaching after you've shared.
I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you. I am from Montreal, Canada, and spending some months in the desert. I just wanted to mention that my mother, one of four siblings, four children, one survived. They all perished in the Holocaust, and I just happened to know that people who came back exactly the date and time of her death. So I know exactly that it's starting tonight and till tomorrow. And it's a very sad time, coupled with what's going on in Texas now. It's just can't believe how horrible things are again. And I thank you for the opportunity to be part of your community, to express this, and thank you for welcoming me.
Of course, and thank you for sharing that story as you're sharing, especially today with what's going on in Texas. For those of you who don't know, I was told on my way out of shul today that I don't know what the situation is currently, but what was happening in Texas is that a Reform shul in, I don't remember the name of the city, not a big city that I had heard of, there is a hostage situation where at least 4 people, what? Near Dallas. Okay. Gary just told me it's near Dallas.
Colliesville. The name is Colliesville. Beth Shalom in Colliesville.
Colliesville. Thank you. I feel like I'm playing Mad Libs, like just fill in the blanks. Where there are at least four people being held hostage in the shul. They believe one of the hostages to be the rabbi. So as was just mentioned quite a few times, we hope that they are safe. We hope that those who are doing their jobs to keep everybody safe are continuing to do that. And as Steve just shared with us, it is unfortunate that we continue to hear of these kinds of tragedies and scary moments in our world, especially when we believe them to be connected to a misunderstood hatred and fear of the Jewish people. We're gonna do Birkat really quickly, and then Jackie is gonna teach. So did anybody who ate a bagel, would anybody like to lead us in Birkat? Great. So Joey's gonna lead us, and you'll just lead the first bit, and then we'll do everything silently, and then Jackie will teach. ויברך כה בשר שם קודשו לעולם ועד ואנחנו נברך מעתה ועד עולם הללויה הודו לאדוני כי טוב כי לעולם חסדו גבורת אדוני ישמיע כל תהילתו.
Okay. We're Shabbat Shalom, everyone. It's really funny. I was here last night with Rabbi Shapiro. I was giving the drash, and he also got up and started that Jackie is speaking, but I have the microphone, so I'm going to say something. And he came really close to what I thought I was going to say, and I was like, this is going to be terrible. And then it just happened again. Rabbi Schatz was like, Jackie's teaching, but I have the mic. And then also again, she started talking about Yitro, and I was like, oh no, she's going to like take my punchline, and this is going to be the end of it. Thankfully, it did. Scooping. Apparently they call that scooping. Well, I almost got scooped twice this Shabbos, and I got scooped 0 times in the end, so that worked out. I am actually really kind of excited by this. Yitro is this really interesting character that we see, and there's all sorts of stuff about him, and why does he get a parsha, and who is he, and why do we talk about him being a Midianite priest, and all of these things. So we're not going to answer basically any of those questions, but they are out there. I think he's really cool that he's this somewhere between, he's a ger, so he's somewhere between a convert and a sojourner. It's unclear because biblical Hebrew, but he gets a parsha named after him, and one that's kind of a big deal. So I wanted to talk about Yitro. So we're going to do a little bit of a dive into who he is, kind of 2 lessons from him, one a lesson from him from Torah, and one sort of a modern midrash on Yitro, and where's the Talmud, where's the lesson in that. So the first thing on the source sheet is Rashi. On right at the beginning of our parsha, we're asked, one might ask, who is Yitro? So Rashi tells us, Sheva Shemot Nikru Lo. He was called by 7 names. Reuel, Yeter, Yitro, Chovav, Chaver, Keni, and Putiel. So 7 names, and it gives us the reasons. Normally I would ask someone to read, but for the sake of Zoom, I'm sorry, you all have to just listen to me. So he was called Yeter, which is different from Yitro, because he added, they believe that because of him, a section was added to the Torah. Also, this is all just Rashi on it, because we will come to a slightly different answer. So we have Yitro. We have Yeter. Yitro, so he was called because when he became a proselyte and fulfilled the design precepts, one more letter was added to his name. So Rashi here is suggesting that his name was Yeter, and when he comes over to Judaism, they add a letter and he becomes Yitro, similar to what was seen with Avraham, Sarai, Sarah. Chovav, because he loved the Torah. And for sure, Chovav is Yitro. So there are questions in a couple places. Might they be talking about someone else? Are they for sure talking about Yitro? Because it says, and I'm actually going to skip it for now because I've brought all the sources. But Rashi is sure it is correct to say that Chovav is Yitro. But as to Reuel, there are some who say that he is not identical to Yitro. So Reuel is another name, and Rashi here is suggesting that maybe it's a different person overall. So he continues, and he explains that, the rain, if you're on Zoom, you probably can't hear it, but the rain is picking up here. It's getting a little bit louder. And so Rashi is saying Reuel may be a different person. So I was intrigued. I have heard this before, but I've never had the sources. So I'm going to pause for a minute. Does anyone have any thoughts? Things you've learned, anything? I know we just went through like a quick list, but like anything coming up? Rabbi Schatz. You got to be real loud with that rain.
Definitely not equated, but in terms of attention paid to names, it's interesting that Yitro potentially has so many identities similar to Gad that there are different names.
So Rabbi Schatz mentioned that she can't think of any other characters that get as many names as Yitro, except for God. That God has all of these names and all of these different aspects, and not comparing God and Yitro necessarily, but just showing where is attention paid to that. Okay, So I went ahead and went to find all of these sources to try to find where we see these names. Maybe there's a connection, maybe we know why. So we're going to start in Exodus. We're going to start, they go, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, they go in order that they appear mostly. They're mostly in order that they appear in the Tanakh, though there's one a little bit later that's out of order. So this is actually when we see him before this week's Parsha. When Paro learned of the matter, he sought to kill Moshe, but Moshe fled from Paro. He arrived, if you don't have a source sheet and you're in a Chumash or a Tanakh, it's Exodus 2:15-18 that I'm reading. He arrived in the land of Midian and sat down beside a well. Now, the priest of Midian had 7 daughters. They came to draw water and filled the troughs to water their father's flock, but shepherds came and drove them off. Moses rose to their defense and he watered their flock. When they returned to their father, Reuel, he said, "How is it that you have come back so soon today?" So here we see this priest of Midian with 7 daughters, and his name is Reuel, and he's equated to Jethro, but he's not called to Yitro, and he's not called that here. So that's the first time we see this priest of Midian. And so here we have, this is also still not this week's Parsha, sorry. We're in Exodus 4, verse 18. Moses went back to his father-in-law, Jether in the English, and said to him, "Let me go back to my kinsmen in Egypt and see how they are faring." And Jethro, said to Moses, "Go in peace." So here we have in one verse, we have Moshe and Yitro, and we have both Yeter and Yitro in the same verse, still all before this week's Parsha. So now we've got both. And now we have this week's Parsha. We're in Exodus still Shemot, chapter 18, verse 1. Yitro, Jethro, priest of Midian, Moses' father-in-law, heard all that God had done for Moses and for his people. And it continues on a little bit. I put some more verses because it is this week's Parsha that we just read. Yeah, that we're reading. Sorry, days get confusing with Parsha and what we read and all of that. So here we have Yitro in today's Parsha named Yitro. We're gonna fast forward a book to Numbers Bamidbar 10:29, and we're again. So here's where we're gonna get real confusing. Moses said to Hobab, son of Reuel the Midianite, Moses' father-in-law, "We are setting out for the place of which the Lord has said, 'I will give it to you.'" There's a little bit more in the verse, but that's his name. So here's where we get real confusing. So if you look at the Hebrew, Vayomer Moshe leChovav ben Reuel Hamidiani. So it seems clear here that he's speaking to Chovav ben Reuel Hamidiani. Choten Moshe is where we get a little confusing. Who of these people is the father-in-law of Moshe? It's a little unclear. So this is where we get kind of sticky. And so I'm going to pause there again. If anyone, like what, especially that piece, maybe, especially if you're familiar with Hebrew or anything like that, I just went quickly through a lot of sources. But is anything kind of coming up? Does it feel sticky? Does it feel familiar? Does it feel, where's that sitting? You got to be real loud. Sorry, Bob. So, yeah, don't apologize. So Bob's flat out claim is it's bad editing. And really is explaining is kind of talking about, you're talking about documentary hypothesis before I misquote you, which I love and I think is so interesting that all of these stories are coming out of different sources and all kind of add a little bit to that. that they may have been different stories passed down from different people who had different names for the same person, the same way that if you, I will fully confess, if you meet people who knew me when I was a kid, my name was Jacqueline. If you called me Jackie when I was like 5, you might as well have called me Sam or Susan. Like, I just would not respond. And so people who know me from when I'm little still to this day call me Jacqueline. But if most of you called me Jacqueline, I would be very confused and maybe a little put off. But still, there's that tradition. And so Bob is bringing in that these stories potentially came from different authors who had different traditions, but Bob, you still think they're all talking about the same person, just different people referred to him in different ways. Okay, so I wish everyone on Zoom could see Bob's expression. There was a little bit of a like, I'm not gonna do it very well, but a little bit of a like sort of situation in this last one, the last one from sorry, I flipped my sheet, from Bamidbar, where we get really confused, Chovav and Reuel, who is Reuel, father-in-law, grandfather. That's where we got really sticky on that. So probably all one person. That one muddies the water a little bit. But we've got a staked claim in same person, different stories with the asterisks of one. So the next source I think is very interesting. This one I think was my favorite. So we've got Shemot chapter 6, verse 25, and then we have Targum Yonatan on it, which I love. Sometimes Targum on Torah can be really helpful if there's a word that you don't know, and also sometimes it'll be interesting because as all translation does, all translation comes with interpretation. You have to pick a word when you've got some options. So the verse reads, and Aaron's son Eleazar, ben Aaron. So Eleazar, the son of Aaron, took to wife one of Putiel's daughters, and she bore him Pinchas. So that's just the beginning of that verse. And if you look at the Targum, Eleazar ba'ar Haron. So we're definitely talking about the same guy, Eleazar, son of Aaron. Nesivle mibrato di Yitro, hu Putiale, leindu velidat le yat Pinchas. So so Eleazar ben Aaron took a wife from the daughters of Yitro. So Yonatan is saying that Putiel is Yitro, and he's drawing it straight in. If you only ever read Targum Yonatan, if this was the tradition you had grown up with, you would just know that this is the same person. So that I think is really interesting, is this kind of ancient source that's sort of unmuddying the waters for us a little bit. And then we step out of Torah. We're going to step into the rest of Nach. Sorry, my brain. I looked at the time and my brain got a little fried. So we see in Shoftim, we're going to get the last two names. We're going to get the descendants of the Canaanite, the father-in-law of Moses, went up with the Judites from the city of Psalms. So Uvnei Keni Choten Moshe. So here we're going to get Keni, we're going to get 6. And then we have the last one, Vechever HaKeni Nifrad Mikain. Now Vechever, the Canaanite, had separate from the other Canaanites, descendants of Chovab, father-in-law of Moshe. So we have one more where it looks like it might be Yitro, but then he's also descendant from Chovav. So in the Hebrew, if you look at it, Vechever hakni nifrad mikayan mibnei Chovav choten Moshe. So the trope gives us a little bit of a hint of where this choten Moshe goes to. It possibly goes to Chovav, and it's possible it's referring to Chever. So we again get that little bit of muddied who's who. I think this one might be a little bit more clear, but Rashi, and also, as we'll see, Mechilta also thinks that this is a name. So I'm actually gonna skip the Mechilta just for time, but it's there. And again, he's gonna list all the names, and he is gonna, he comes to different reasons than Rashi, but he's gonna give you the same 7 names. I actually like the Mechilta's reasoning. It's also a lot shorter and a lot clearer, like 3 words at a time. Here's why he's got all these names. So now that we might or might not know who Yitro is, we're sure that he's the father-in-law of Moshe. Might have some other names, unclear. I want to talk a little bit about the story that happens in the Parsha. We didn't read it today. We'll read it on Shabbos, but the story is here. It's a great story. I'm going to summarize quickly, just again for time, but then I'll read the specific part I want to focus on. Moshe is sitting and listening to the people all day, and Yitro says, why are you sitting as all these people stand and come to you? Like, why are you doing this? Why are you doing this? And Moses says, because God said so. When there's a problem, they come to me and I decide. So we're going to look at verse 17, chapter 18, verse 17 in Shemot, if you are not looking at the source sheet. But Moses' father-in-law said to him, the thing you are doing is not right. You will surely wear yourself out, and these people as well. For the task is too heavy for you. You cannot do it alone. I don't know about anyone else, but I love that. Like, that is a thing that I think I need in my life, and so many of us need. And it's a lesson that we see again. I've brought in Pirkei Avot. This is one of, arguably one of the more famous pieces of Pirkei Avot, if the entire thing itself is not famous. Rabbi Tarfon used to say, it is not your duty to finish the work, but neither are you at liberty to neglect it. And so we see this wisdom from Yitro coming through all these years later, about it's too much. You can't do it all on your own. You don't have to do it all on your own. And yeah, I think that's we're seeing it both in Torah and Pirkei Avot of ways to live our lives. So I'm going to pause there again. I have one more lesson, time dependent. But I just want to see, like, does that resonate with people? Does that feel challenging? Does that feel easy? How does that sit? How does that feel? I don't want to call you out. Good. I got a thumbs up. Yeah, Rabbi Schatz is going to go back to Yitro.
I just wonder how much of the listing of names goes back to like the ancient tradition of naming, similar actually to what Native Americans still do, but naming based on qualities and not necessarily those being like your name. For example, my dad calls me something very different than my siblings call me, than my friends call me, than my congregants call me. So could it be the case that sure, Yitro might have had 7 different names, but this whole chovav, I agree with Bob, but this whole chovav business that probably just didn't have the correct punctuation, could it be that that's how Moshe referred to Yitro as, someone who he felt love for and compassion for, and then the name Reuel is actually the name that was ascribed to him, right? That was actually the name, not the adjective for who he was. Obviously, the judges, I think it was judges, right? Yeah, the Shoftim piece. That we're just gonna forget about the Shoftim piece for a second. But I do wonder if the names are more descriptive in terms of character and less prescriptive in terms of like title.
Okay, so I'm going to try to summarize this. So no, it's good. It's really good. Just I want everyone to be able to hear it. Rabbi Schatz brings in a thought that maybe that these names are describing character traits, which I think actually is what the Mechilta is getting at. I think Rashi to some extent is touching on this, and this is really what the Mechilta is getting at, is these are character traits. And also that like different people, she gave the example, her father calls her one thing, her siblings call her another, versus congregants and friends and all of that. And so maybe like chovav is something that Moshe calls him out of closeness or out of love. And so these names are more descriptive than prescriptive, quote. Direct quote there. But they're more descriptive than prescriptive, and they really talk about the relationship and who Yitro was as a human, or Reuel was as a human, instead of just he had 7 different names because his parents put a lot on his birth certificate. Or because we didn't know who he was, quote Rabbi Rebecca Schatz. I am going to leave you on. Oh, yeah, I've got someone being voluntold that they'd like to share. Great. So we've got a kind of a summation, which is great. I think I'm gonna hold what you said for 1 second because I'm gonna point out what the last thing is, and then I'm gonna use your summary and call it a day. I am. I'm gonna scoop that.
Scoop David.
Yeah, although you said it first. So, the last thing that I brought, which I really love, but I would encourage you to look at, is the song "Through Heaven's Eyes" from the Prince of Egypt. Modern midrash. It's a beautiful, beautiful song. And I brought a piece from Megillah, from Masachet Megillah, about reading Torah and how all these people are praiseworthy. And really, the point in this is just about you have to just have perspective on what people are and who's good and who's great and all of those things. And I would encourage you to read it. I think it's really interesting. If not, I wouldn't have put it on here. But what David said that I'm going to scoop and use as a conclusion is that it's really great to sit and study together and to be able to bring these two ideas, to bring documentary hypothesis from Bob and a character explanation from Rabbi Schatz, and really bring them together, and that they're not in conflict, and that when we look at these things, it's incredible to be able to find different perspectives. And I'm going to add that this is what I love about Torah and about text study, and especially about Parsha, because we do it every year. And so we get to come back and we get to find new things and we get to connect them in new ways. And it's this sort of spiral of learning, like math, like you used to learn 4 + 1 and then you learn 4 + -1, and it sort of spirals. And I feel like Torah often gives us the same opportunity to sit and take what we know and just keep adding to it and spiraling back around year after year. So I hope you found something new in this and something to add from any sort of perspective. And hopefully now next Shabbos you hear the story about Yitro, aka these 6 other names, you'll have something new. Shabbat shalom. Sure, I can. I'm here.
Do you want to do Yitro or not, or do you want me to?
Sure, I can. Yeah.
We're going to do Kaddish de Rabbanan as a hearty Yashar Koach to Jackie to recognize that we've all learned a bit of Torah this evening. So it's going to, oh wait, that's a little bit that way. Yeah, we're finding the page. Sure. It's on page 38. And if you're observing a yortzeit or in mourning, you will also say Kaddish de Rabbanan along with Jackie. The rest of us will respond.
Yit gadal ve'yit kadash shemei rabah. Be'alma divra kirte ve'amlich malchute b'chayechon uvyomechon uvchaye d'chol beit Yisrael ba'agala uvizman kariv ve'imru amen. Yehe shmei rabah mevarach le'olam olmei almaya. Yit barach ve'yish tabach ve'yit ba'ar ve'yit romam ve'yit naseh. Ve'yit hadar, ve'yit ale, ve'yit halal, shemei dekudusha brichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechamata, ta'amiran be'alma v'imru, amen. Al Yisrael ve'al Rabbanan ve'al Talmidei ve'al kol Talmidei hon, ve'al kol man de'askin be'oreita, di ve'atra hadain ve'di bechol atar ve'atar. Yehe lehon ulchon shlama rabba, china v'chista v'rachamin, v'chayin arichin umezuna revicha, uforkana min kadam avahon divishmaya v'imru amen. Yehe shlama rabba min shmaya, v'chaim tovim alinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu yerachamav ya'aseh shalom, alinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. I'm just going to turn around quickly and we will continue with Mariv, which is on page 264 if you are in Sidor Lev Shalem. We're checking if we have a minion.
So it seems for at least the moment we lost our minion during Kaddish Rabbanan. So we're going to begin at the top of page 264. We'll skip the actual Baruch Hu and pick up with the blessing following the Baruch Hu. So Jackie will start with Vehu Rachum, skip the Baruch Hu, go to the next blessing.
Vehu rachum yachaper ben v'layashchit v'hir bala shiva pova v'yir kol chabato Adonai hu shiyam elkeinu ben yahom korin hu baruch atz Adonai elkeinu melchol ha'olam asher v'potech sharim Mavir yom mevi laila mavdil ben yom ben laila Adonai tzvaot shemo el chavik hayam tamid melachol enu le'olam va'ed baruch atz Adonai hamari v'aravim Avat olam beit Yisrael chatat Avat chal tasir minu leolamim baruch atah Adonai ohev amo Yisrael Shema Melech Neman Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad Amen. Famine on close out for time on lane. Malchut Tober Atzon Kiblu Aleichem Moshe B'nai Yisrael Lecha Anu Shira B'Simcha Rabba V'Yamru Kulam Micha Mocha Me'elim Adonai Micha Mocha Nedzar B'Kodesh Norati Lo Tosef Ele Malchut Techara Uvanecha Bokei Yam Lifnei Moshe Zeli Anu V'Yamru Adonai Imloch Leolam V'He V'Nehem Arkivet Adonai Et Yaakov U'Ge'elo Mi'ad Chazak Mimenu Baruch Atah Adonai Ga'al Yisrael Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom. Mishmor Teinu Eino Chaim Shalom Yata Ve'ad Olam Baruch Atah Adonai Shomer Mol Yisrael La'ad Baruch Adonai Le'olam Amin Ve'amein Baruch Adonai Tzaddik Yerushalayim Hallelujah. כי המלכות שלך היא וליומי עד תמלוך בכבוד, כי אין לנו מלך עליה אתה, ברוך אתה אדוני המלך בכבוד תמיד למלוך עלינו לעולם ועד ועל כל מעשיו. Yeah, we will continue with the whispered Amidah beginning on page 270 through page 278. If you're still davening your own private Amidah, please feel free to continue. We are going to continue together on page 279 in Siddur Lev Shalem. Vehinu Adonai Eloheinu aleinu, יקראני ועיניהו עמו אנוכי בצרה. אכלתהו ואכבדהו, אורך ימים משביעהו, והריהו בישועתי. אורך ימים משביעהו, והריהו בישועתי. Continue page 216. ואתה קודש ישבתי לאות ישראל, וקראת אל זאב ואמר, קדוש 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 נעשה מלוך את כבודו. תשאהיני רחש מאחורי כל רעש גדול, ברוך כבוד אדוני ממקומו. אדוני מלך לעולם ועד, אדוני מלכותי קיים לעולם ולעולמי עלמיה. Continue with Alinu, page 281. Alinu לשבח לאדון הכל, תגידו לה ליוצאי בראשית. כתוב ותורתך אדוני מלך לעולם ועד, ונאמר אדוני למלך כל הארץ, היום הוי אדוני אחד ושמו אחד. Kaddish Yatom, page 282. Yit Gadal ve'yit Kadash Shemei Rabbah. Be'alma divra kirte ve'amlich malchute. B'chayechon uvyomechon uvchaye t'chol beit Yisrael. Ba'agala uvizman kariv ve'imru amen. Yehi Shmei Rabbah mevarach le'olam olmei almaya. Yitbarach ve'yishtabach ve'yitpa'ar ve'yitromam ve'yitnaseh ve'yithadar ve'yit'aleh ve'yithalal shemed kudusha b'richu le'ela min kol berchata v'shirata tushbachata v'nechamata da'amiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya V'chaim alinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom alinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen.
Amen.
Havdal.
We only have like 3 minutes.
Oh, sorry, I dove in too fast. My bad.
Oh, hold on. Okay. All right, we have a few minutes, like 3, until Havdalah. So because Jackie provided us with a song on her source sheet, I thought that maybe we would sing it. But I don't know if people know it. So I'll sing it and you can sing with me. And it goes like this. This is going to be embarrassing. I'm sorry that this is being live streamed. It's gonna be embarrassing for me. Okay. A single thread in a tapestry, though its color brightly shine, can never see its purpose in the pattern of the grand design. And the stone that sits on the very top of the mountain's mighty face, does it think it's more important than the stones that form the base? So how can you see what your life is worth or where your value lies? You can never see through the eyes of man. You must look at your life through heaven's eyes. A lake of gold in the desert sand is less than a cool, fresh spring. And to the one lost sheep, a shepherd boy is greater than the richest king. If a man lose everything he owns, has he truly lost his worth? Or is it the beginning of a new and brighter birth? So how do you measure the worth of a man in wealth or strength or size? In how much he gained or how much he gave? The answer will come to him who tries to look at his life through heaven's eyes. Well, that was fine, but what? Yeah, that was fine, but you should all listen to the Mormon Tabernacle Choir sing it, because though I can sing, that is really something. But the best part is Okay, we're gonna keep going. All right, let's get Havdalah moving here. I'm sorry that we can't make it dark, but if you have Havdalah things at home, feel free to get them out. We'll light the candle in just 1 second, but we will start singing. Havdalah can be found on page 283 if you're in the Lev Shalem. What do you mean?
Like fire cup.
Fire cup? Oh, just put it in the cup. Yanai na nai 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 yanai na nai nai yanai yanai na nai 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 yanai na nai nai yanai nai nai yanai nai yanai nai nai yanai nai yanai nai yo yanai nai yanai nai nai yanai nai yanai nai nai yanai nai 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 yanai na nai nai yanai yanai na nai 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 yanai na nai nai yanai nai nai yanai nai yanai nai nai yanai nai yanai nai yo yanai nai yanai nai nai yanai nai yanai nai nai hinei Yeshuati Eftach velo efchad Ki ozi vezimratia Adonai vayehi li lishua Ushafte mayim besason Mimanei ha-Yeshua L'Adonai ha-Yeshua Alamcha virchatecha sela Adonai tzevaot Imanu Miskav lanu Elohei Yaakov Sela Adonai Tzevaot Asher Yadam Boteach Bach Adonai Yoshia Hamelech Ha'aneinu V'yom Koreinu La Yehudim Hayta ora Vesimcha vesason vikar Kenti elanu Kosi Yeshuot esa Uveshem Adonai ekra Yainanai yananai nai nai Yainanai yananai nai Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Borei peri hagafen Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Borei minei vesamim. I don't think we're going to pass this around because of COVID. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam nope. Borei v'yarei ha'esh. I was just too excited. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamavdil ben kodesh lechol ben or lechoshech ben Yisrael le'amim ben yom hashvi'i le'sheshet yamei hamaseh Baruch atah Adonai hamavdil ben kodesh lechol. המבדיל בין קודש לחול, חטאותינו ימחול. זרענו וכספנו ירבה ירבה כחול, וככוכבים בלילה. זרענו וכספנו ירבה ירבה כחול, וככוכבים בלילה. שבוע טוב, שבוע טוב. שבוע טוב, שבוע טוב, שבוע טוב, שבוע טוב, שבוע טוב, שבוע טוב. אליהו הנביא, אליהו התשבי, אליהו, אליהו, אליהו הגלעדי, במהרה בימינו יבוא אלינו עם משיח בן דוד, עם משיח בן דוד. Shavua Tov, everyone. I hope to see many of you on Zoom tomorrow night for our Tu B'Shvat Seder at 5:30 p.m. If you would like to join us, I'm sure the link is on the website, or you can email me and I'm happy to send it to you. You will provide your own fun snacks and whatnot, but I will provide some good Torah and fun elements for us to discuss during the Tu B'Shvat Seder. It is just an hour, so think of it as appetizers or a happy hour or whatever makes you excited to join us from 5:30 to 6:30 p.m. and have a great rest of your night. Shavua Tov. See you soon.